And when it came to individuals with psychotic illnesses in particular, what one saw was obviously a fascinating set of symptoms, people struggling with hallucinations and delusions that are easy to be interested in for people even if they're not in healthcare. So there's an aspect to this that, of course, is just fascinating from a human point of view. People are having experiences that are alien to most of us, that to them are the most compelling experiences. But quite beyond that, what I noticed as an immigrant myself in the United States, who was beginning to learn to be a physician and discovering that even though I had been in the country at the time for 6 years and was beginning my clinical rotations, that I was really beginning my immigration journey, that I spoke in a way and thought in a way that was different from many of the healthcare workers and nurses I was now interacting with, and physicians. And I felt a certain sort of resonance with individuals with chronic schizophrenia who, by being so much outside the pale, outside society, being themselves in a way that was so different, so obviously different, that it almost gave permission for others to be strange and weird. And so I recall coming to a cafe in New Haven, sometimes to read on the weekends. And at the time, there was a person who everyone, all the mental health clinics I'm sure knew, had chronic schizophrenia. He would come to the cafe, stand in a corner, and have conversations with no one in particular who was around him. He was hearing voices probably. The staff knew him. He was friends with them. He knew their names. And they allowed him to stand there and do this thing which in many other places would not be permitted. Someone would feel uncomfortable, would usher them out. For me, as an immigrant living alone at the time, it felt enormously comfortable to be in a place that would tolerate behavior that was so outside the norm that I felt less strange to. Now, of course, looking at me, I don't look threatening in any way. I look very conventional, but I didn't feel like I was part of the society. And so it felt really great to have others give others permission. So that in a very strange way, I felt like having a mental illness also makes you an immigrant in your own country. You emigrate suddenly from the land of the well to the land of the unwell, but in a way that also, for mental illnesses, somehow also excludes you. You don't acquire a privileged status as heroically fighting an illness. You somehow get excluded. And to me, that felt in almost a guilty way inclusive of me too, because in an odd way, I felt excluded too, sometimes from my own medical colleagues. And so it sort of, it found me in a way. I felt comfortable in a way with people who were also outside the pale, although oddly, I had followed all the conventional markers of, finishing college, going to medical school, finishing residency, getting a faculty position. I resonated with people who felt excluded.